All right.
All right. Hey, guys. My name is Karis Warnock, and I'm with.
Oh,
I'm Zach Reimer.
Paul Dixon.
All right. So this is week 3 discussion. So we're going to go through the 3 questions. So question 1, how is the pandemic changing the workplace? Zach, you can start.
Well, obviously, it depends on the different types of industry. Like if you're in an industry where you already work from home, like somebody who does something in tech or something like that, where all it is, you're already working from home, it's not going to change that much. But if you're a server, for example, you have half the clientele if your restaurant's open at all. So it's going to be hard to support a family or earn a living like you used to based on half the clients. And also, the same amount of people still work there, so then you're getting half the work too, since everyone needs a shift. That's something that my girlfriend's having to do right now, and it's been pretty tough for her, just for a few examples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it's been really affecting me at work. I work in a warehouse, and so everyone has to wear a mask at work, and it's either really hot or you're in a refrigerator and it's really cold, and the mask gets in the way in either place. We also have to have our temperatures taken, but some of the biggest changes are really just not being able to be at all feeling sick, because if you say that you have any kind of headache or anything, you're just sent home immediately and you're out for like 2 weeks. But I know people are getting really stressed about having to work from home and do everything online. I mean, it can be unorganized. It can be really stressful. I know that it's affecting, like it said in the article we had to read, it's affecting morale of employees. It's changing the culture, and it's just kind of difficult to abide by all the regulations in regards to COVID-19. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you said earlier, I guess it depends on the industry. In the article, it said 82% of like service industry restaurants were cutting back their services. I think about 40% of services were being cut back in those instances. And there was a lot of restaurants that were just looking, that were cutting headcounts with no intent to hire back. So I know it's really affecting the service industry pretty bad, movie theaters, stuff like that, the workplaces. And when you are in a restaurant and you're working, you have to wear the mask. Like you were saying, it gets uncomfortable, but you're serving people who aren't wearing the masks. And so it's a little bit dangerous. And then where I work at a law firm, it's just been, like I said, it's just been weird, people working from home. So only about half the office is there, and then we're just kind of splicing them back in as we go. And we got these little plexiglass dividers and stuff like that. So the whole place just looks kind of weird and everybody's spread out. Whereas before everybody was kind of a communal thing. So, people have to be a little bit more to themselves now.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
So moving on to question 2, what challenges are employers experiencing owing to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I'd say a challenge is some people are afraid to go into work. They're afraid of getting infected, and they might have a wife or a mom or dad that might be super susceptible to getting sick. And, they just don't want to go in just to risk to themselves or a loved one. Another thing, like you're saying, is if somebody is sick, gets a headache, whatever, you might have to tell them to, even if it's nothing, they're not going to be able to work for 2 weeks. And then there you go, there's a member of your team gone for 2 weeks. And it might have been something or it might not have been anything, but, you have to be extra careful. And, Karis, I'll let you take over.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, you have to take any kind of symptom seriously. So it's difficult for employers to have to abide by these new mandates and standards. I know something that we're experiencing at my work is they're not even really meeting people that they're hiring at some points. They're doing phone interviews. So you might not even meet the person you're hiring until they come in on that first day. And so it's really affecting the turnover. So we'll have someone come in and they'll work for a day or two and they'll be bad workers and we'll just have to let them go. And it's just because they're good at talking on a phone. Like it's a lot easier to do that than being in person. But another thing that's changing my workplace is even just drug tests. So right now we're not making new employees go get drug tests unless they're going for a management position. So that's one way they're limiting people from being exposed to others. So it's kind of also changing the crowd that we have at work. But I mean, there's a lot of things that are changing. And like you said, people are scared to go into work. They're scared to leave their kids at home with a nanny or send them to a daycare. So it's just a weird time to be alive. But yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. And, HR managers are having a hard time right now because it's just hard to plan for the future. We don't know when this is going to end. And I'm sure profits have been cut. And so you're trying to figure out who to keep, if you need to hire more people even, and then some people don't want to come back to work. And so it's just hard to plan for your needs employment wise for the future. And even like I said, I work at a law firm, and I was talking to some of those attorneys, and they were saying that they were considering having a trial via Zoom. And it's like a huge trial. They've been working on it for 8 years. And they were like, I really hope we don't have this trial via Zoom because, you kind of lose the aspect of person to person contact with a jury and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so industries like law, that's kind of just weird. So it's really affected those negatively, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the person to person contact is it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Being able to be in the same room as someone and talk to them, being able to shake their hand,
and even
being able to have the jury present since.
And even they said, if they do have the trial in person, the jurors are going to be wearing masks, and half of reading a jury is seeing facial expressions. So, that makes their job a lot harder for sure.
Yeah. Well,
for sure.
Interesting. Well, question 3 then. If you were the manager or HR manager, how would you respond to the identified challenges?
I would say that, like always, you have to put your people first. Like you're saying earlier, Karis, morale is going to be super low. People are going to be scared. So you're going to have to work with that the best you can. A lot of people, their kids can't go to school anymore. So they kind of depend on that for the work day. Kids are at school, then you pick them up after your work day. Now kids have to do school from home. A lot of people are going to have to work from home. And as a manager, you're going to have to be extra flexible with that. And you're going to have to work with people, like we talked about earlier, being sick, having to be like, you know what, yeah, don't come in, take it more seriously. Don't try to push people to come in even though that they feel bad, and work with people's concerns and, their feelings on the entire matter in general.
Yeah, I agree. Putting the people first. I think it starts with, though, following the standards and mandates that have been set. You have to make sure you're putting your people in the best and most safe situation. So, if I were a manager, I'd make sure that we are following all of the procedures that the CDC is saying to do, the social distancing, sanitizing, any kind of symptoms, you have to go home. Just being as safe as possible, but also working with your employees who might be struggling because it's a damper on morale and productivity. So it's tough, a lot of tough calls, but you just have to make the safest decision in whatever you do.
Yeah. And like Zach was saying, earlier before all this stuff was happening, you call in sick and your manager's kind of just like, he's probably hungover or whatever the deal is. And so now you just kind of have to take their word for it and just, the government's given these stimulus packages to businesses so they can pay people more vacation or, sick leave. And so that's available for you. So you kind of just have to know that you can use that, because the last thing you want is to tell somebody that's actually sick to come into your office just because you don't think they're sick. And the next thing you know, you got a COVID outbreak on your hands. And like y'all were saying, just kind of checking in on your employees, making sure they're all right with their online stuff that they're doing, because I know it can be confusing. And maybe, I know at my law firm, the paralegals have to send their supervisor kind of like a recap at the end of the day of the stuff they did. And so if there was any issues inside of that, they could kind of touch on that with them and make sure that they're in the best spot to succeed because you can't see them every day, you know. So you kind of have to see what they're doing online and try to figure out what their struggles are that way.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Well, yeah. Is there anything else anyone wants to add? I mean, is there anything you guys are thinking about in regards to the way the pandemic is changing the world?
I don't think so. I think we touched on pretty much all of it.
Yeah, I think so
I think
too.
we covered it pretty well.
Just a
All
weird
right.
time live.
All right. Cool.
Well, thanks, guys.